For more on this, we are joined from Washington by Bilal Saab. He is an expert on Syria and a fellow at the James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies at the Monterey Center for International Studies. Good afternoon, Bilal.
Good afternoon.
Bilal, let me ask you, first of all, we're seeing a situation on the ground that's changing all the time. Tell us now, with this latest defection of the Prime Minister, is this going to make an impact at all to the Bashar al-Assad regime?
You know, I'd like to believe that it really has real ramifications for the conflict, but it doesn't, just because the Prime Minister has symbolic powers in the Syrian government, and the fact that they survived the killing of 4 security officers who were pretty senior not too long ago, and they were able to replace them, I'm afraid that the Prime Minister is much more easier to replace.
Okay, let's take that out of the equation then, and let's look at what's happening on the ground itself. We've seen in the past week or so videos actually coming from the Free Syria Army of people being massacred on the behalf of the rebels. We've also seen or heard from the Hula massacre that happened a month or so ago. Initially we heard that this was Syrian army troops going in there massacring people. Then the European reports said the exact opposite. We're not dealing with good guys on either side here, are we?
Well, I mean, what happened in Hola was a PR disaster for the rebels. I hope it was an isolated incident, but it is likely that we might see more of those security incidents in the future, just because of the sectarian dynamics of the conflict. But there are bad sides on both sides, absolutely.
And now with hijab joining that side, jumping over from Assad's side, is that at least going to bolster the rebels? Is that going to maybe consolidate the different factions of the rebel group? Or is this, again, something that is just going to maybe just pass by in the wind like everything else that's happened so far?
No, not at all, to be honest. The defection of Manaf Tlass, who is the son of the former defense minister of Syria, is by far a more important defection than the prime minister. Manaf Tlass could easily rally the rebels on the ground and try to provide them with more international support, given his extensive international networks. So that, for me, is a far more important development than the I heard it was a sacking, first of all, by the Syrian government, and then he defected, but I'm not sure what the story is. But the man has symbolic powers, so it is almost irrelevant to the battlefield, basically, that is today the most honest placed in the Syrian conflict.
And Klaas, who you mentioned as well, Klaas, really, was it truly a defection? I mean, he was somebody that was already under house arrest by the Assad regime. Is this something that he was working on before he even left Syria?
That's what I hear. He has refused to take orders from the Syrian president to take on the opposition in Damascus. So at least on a moral, ideological standpoint, he was sympathetic to the plight of the opposition. So he had been working for quite some time, I understand, in terms of how he was going to defect, what is the timing of the defection, and there might have been some coordination with the Free Syrian Army. Usually these defections, whenever they're high level, they tend to be coordinated with the Free Syrian Army and its leader, Riyad al-Assad, in Turkey.
Okay, Bilal, very quickly, if you could just answer this question, the shape of what's happening on the ground, I know what the answer really is, but do you see any end in the near future, or even within coming years, to what's happening in Syria right now?
This is an insurgency. This is a guerrilla war. Therefore, these tend to be protracted conflicts. They tend to be long wars. So I'm afraid that we might be nearing the beginning of the end, but that beginning of the end is going to take a while before it actually completely finishes.
Bilal, thank you very much for joining us today.
Absolutely, anytime.
That was Bilal Saab in Washington, D.C.